Okay, so we have the recording going in the
Yep.
live. All right. Welcome everyone to the Infamous Storytellers podcast. I'm your host, Infamous Storyteller. I am joined by Joe
Hi.
and Brandon.
Hi.
Um, and we will be covering chapter 15 of My Little Cemetery. So let's get into it.
Yeah. Check out the link in the description below if you don't want to hear us read. And if you want to just read it
Oh, are you?
yourself, I have it in the description. I
Oh,
should.
that's
And
convenient.
if you hate this book, we have another book.
You could also chat GPT it. It'll probably find it on the internet.
Yeah.
So,
Instead of saying Google it, you say GPT it. Gaput
yeah,
it.
really though.
Gaput it, guys.
That's
All
where the
right.
world is going.
Yeah.
But that's all ChatGPT actually does, is it just goes on Google. It
Yeah.
does the Google
It
search
it
for
it
you.
Google searches for you. It's like we're boomers and they are the techie teens. All right. So we're on chapter 15. Found my shotgun. I scanned my entire body. I only found one blip in my right thigh, around where the fat doctor kept jabbing me with sedatives. I marked the spot with a Sharpie and found an Amber's glove box. I found an Amber's glove box and got dressed. They returned with red smoothies, raspberry, most likely, I joked to myself, with myself. You find it? Amber asked. Yeah, only one in my right thigh. I ran the wand over my jeans and it beeped. Well, let me finish this and we can get to work cutting it out, she replied. That sounded like a terrible idea. Being operated on by a Fae, probably Fae, with Lauren in the room? She's going to look at my thigh? Cringe.
I
What will
think it
she
has more to
think?
do with the blood, but
I know. Here. Lauren pulled a sub from a plastic bag and handed it to me. I took it. It was the first thing she had said to me. I hadn't expected them to give me a sandwich. It was a chicken bacon ranch with extra chipotle sauce. My favorite. How did she know? So that's me. Thank you, I mumbled awkwardly. I started unwrapping the sandwich as Amber rummaged in her Jeep. She emerged with a set of medical tools and laid them out on the dash. She absent-mindedly sipped her questionable drink. It was probably raspberry, I kept telling myself. Fays don't drink blood, but they could. The voice in my head wouldn't shut up. If I could take a scalpel to go, that would be appreciated. She looked at me. You're going to have a hard time getting it out of yourself. We won't hurt you. Much. She smiled in her sly way on the last word. I believe you about 75%, but I'm not done with the tracker. I took a bite of the sandwich. It was almost gone. What do you mean not done with it? Lauren asked. The redhead was squinting at me, suspiciously, and sucking on her smoothie. I swallowed the last bit of my sandwich. Mr. Edgewood is very interested in something that I happen to know a bit about. I'm very interested in him no longer existing, so I'm going to kill him. It will take longer to find me if I remove the tracker. Lauren shook her head at this. You shot him in the head, and he came back from it. I don't know if he can be killed. You make a good point, but you make a good point. He will have to be destroyed. He's a high fae, probably. Killing isn't enough. I walked over to the Jeep's hood. So, if you could spare a scalpel, I'll be on my way. The redhead pulled a scalpel from her bag. You're free to go, she said, handing the tools over. We're not interested in holding you captive. I nodded, ignoring her last comment. I appreciate it. I pulled the rolling door open. Is Rudy safe? Lauren blurted suddenly. I looked back at her, my heart hollow. He was missing from his kennel when I was taken. They likely silenced him so he wouldn't give him away when they jumped me. I cut the feed out right from under her. Her bottom lip quivered and she backed away slowly. I turned and walked out of the storage unit. I couldn't join her in her grief for a dead dog. I had a monster to kill. I walked down the road until I came across a hotel. I got the receptionist to let me make a call. I dialed up Hobbs. Who do I have the delight of speaking with?
Remember, it's Kermit.
Hello, hi-ho. Who do I have the delight of speaking with? I need a wood chipper, and to be picked up at a hotel in Madisonville. I'm not a department store, but I suppose I could get you a chipper. Oh, and a bunch of buckshot and slugs, 3.5 inch. You sound hoarse. Is everything all right, Anthony? It will be. I hung up and walked out of the hotel. The receptionist looked at me wide-eyed as I left, because I talked about gun stuff. A half hour later, a man pulled up in an old pickup. Are you Mr. Anthony? He asked with a cheek full of tobacco. Sure am. Well, climb on in. He patted the rust bucket. I directed him to my unit and thought how I was going to kill Mr. Edgewood. Then I got out. When I got out, he stopped me. You need a chipper too, I was told, he said as he handed me a large box of shotgun shells. Sure do. Drop it in front of this unit, will you? Will do. How big? I got 12 to 38-inch chippers. 24 will be suitable, I replied. When should I be back to pick it up? You won't. Nice. I slid open my unit's door and dug under the cover of my dirt bike. I pulled out $40,000 in cash and handed him $30,000. He happily took my money and was on his way without a second word. I revved my bike up and took off to the gas station to top off and fill my spare gas cans. Then I was off to find my shotgun. I sped through the Smoky Mountains, almost hit an armadillo that scurried across the road. I found my shotgun right where I left it in the hollow log along with its drum mag and two 10,000 straight 10 round straight mags still sitting on top. 10,000 straight mags.
My eyebrows shot up at 10,000. I was like, 10,000 what?
Don't you remember? He was like, okay, Lord, before we go, I gotta store all this ammo. She's like, why did you bring all this ammo, Anthony? He's like, I gotta use the ammo, Lauren. It's the dogs, Lauren.
Right.
They're pink-eyed dogs. I gotta shoot them.
You digress.
I digress, Lauren. Get in the Jeep. I'm gonna load the 10,000 mags. I hadn't had a chance to get them while I was watching Lauren. What was that?
Go on. It's fine.
Gotcha. I ran its action. It worked nicely. There was a touch of rust here and there, but I could clean that up easily enough. I had to get going. It likely wouldn't be long before they caught up to me. It was getting late, and my body was fatigued. I popped a Slim Jim from the handful I bought at the gas station before making my way to the cave where Lauren had hidden from me. Hours later, I found the cliff face and rode along until I reached the cave. I parked my bike and went about the rough task of cutting the tracker from my thigh. Oh, I forgot I hadn't done that yet. It was much deeper than I thought, and the gushing wound made it hard to find. I gave up trying to get it out with my fingers. I pulled a Leatherman from my bike and was able to get a good hold on the tracer with the pliers' teeth. I managed to pull the tracer out with a lot of grimacing and cursing. I squeezed out a tube of super glue, also taken from the seat of my bike, over the incision and sprayed it with activator for a quick seal. Fun fact, the activator is a mix of acetone and water, because water is the activator for superglue. So when you blow on...
Does that mean his blood would just activate it?
Not entirely, because the blood only has some... It wouldn't immediately activate it. If you have too much water, you can dilute it, because then your catalyst is more than your bonding, right?
Right.
So you have a lot of small bits of hardened glue, but there's still a ton of water, so you dilute it out. So what I'm saying is when you blow on glue to dry it, on super glue, it's actually the moisture from your breath that is causing the glue to harden. Isn't that neat?
That is neat.
That's also why super glue sticks really quick on your fingers, because it absorbs the moisture in your fingers. Hours later, I found a cliff face and rode along. It was much deeper than I thought. Gushing wound. Ow, my leg. Super glue activator. I climbed down into the cave, sticking the tracker in a piece of gum right where the cave took a vertical plunge down. Hopefully, it would still send a signal through all the rock and dirt. I left the cave and climbed along the side of the cliff face to an elevated point where I could see the cave's mouth and top of the cliff. I scavenged for branches and built a blind that I hoped would conceal me. The last thing I did before settling down was sprinkle gasoline around the top of the cliff and onto my pants. I hoped it would somewhat mask my scent if they had dogs. I bunkered down and waited, praying Edgewood wouldn't come after sleep overtook me. I popped another Slim Jim and lay prone, shotgun nestled against my shoulder. They took 12 more hours to reach my trap. It was early morning. I'd been awake for an hour, thank heavens. I could hear their engines as they pulled up alongside the cliff. A door opened, and I could see men getting out and walking towards the cave. The voice of Mr. Edgewood, the one we all know and love, cut across the mountainside. "Anthony, the time is running good. The time for running is over. We don't need things to get messy." He paused, waiting for a reply. When I didn't reply, he looked to one of his men. "Where is it showing he's located?" "Beneath us, right over there." It took them a minute to find the mouth of the cave. I watched as a man leaned over the edge. "He must be down there. It took all my restraint to not begin firing." "Couple of flashbangs should do the trick," the man said. "Perhaps," Edward said softly. "Anthony, I suggest you get out or it's going to become very unpleasant for you," he announced loudly. When there was no response, he nodded to one of his men. The man hung over the edge as he popped the pin on a flashbang before tossing it in the tunnel. He followed the flashbang and shone his rifle light down through the tunnel a moment after it went off. "It looks like it drops down at the very end. We'll have to go in and get him or wait him out," the man announced. "We have time," Edward said. "Get staged, then push down and retrieve him." I watched and listened as they got ready for their entrance. There were 5 men, including Edgewood. I watched as they secured a tow strap to a tree over the cave. 3 of the men descended into the cave and got stacked up on the right side of the cave. The lead man was holding a ballistic shield. One more flashbang and they pushed into the cave. I took a long, deep breath and counted down slowly from 20. The 4th man stood above the mouth of the cave, and Edgewood stood a ways back from him. My first 2 shells literally blew Edgewood off his feet and took his shins out from under him. I emptied... Yes, just... We have no time for pleasantries. That would be...
The pain!
Just blam! I emptied 3 rounds into the man standing over the entrance as he brought up his Tommy gun. Because they all have Tommy guns. He stumbled off the side of the cliff. Edgewood was crawling toward the cars. I emptied the rest of my 25-round drum into his back. He stopped moving. I swapped out the drum for a 10-round mag, the 10,000-round mag, as I scanned the rest of the ridge. No movement. I walked down to the clearing. I trained my shotgun on Edgewood as I approached him. He was chewed up pretty good. A big chunk of flesh was missing from his thigh. His chest should have been more damaged, but his suit, apparently Kevlar, appeared to have caught many of the rounds. He looked up at me, not in fear, but in amazement. He started to speak, but I fired around into his face. "Get back up from that," I grumbled bitterly. I went back into the cave and easily slipped over the side using their strap. I shoved the shotgun barrel down and emptied the rest of the mag. I popped it out and replaced it with my last 10 rounds before firing 5 more into the cave. I listened, but my ears were ringing from the 12-gauge blast. I couldn't feel the dead either, which meant they were not dead, or I wasn't close enough. Well, if something was alive down there, they got the idea that it would be a bad idea to try coming out. I climbed back over the edge and repacked my empty mags as I watched the cave's mouth. I shot a couple more rounds of buckshot into the cave before going to the nearest SUV. I found what appeared to be a large GPS tracking system. I was going to put a round in it, but thought better of it. I figured he might have more monsters roaming around. If so, this might make it easier to find them. There were a few Tommy guns in the back, along with 2 more flashbangs. I took the flashbangs and a Tommy gun back to the mouth of the cave. I couldn't hear his men. They were probably in the bottom of the cave if they were alive. I popped in the flashbang and emptied the gun's drum mag into the tunnel after it. I shone my flashlight down in the cave. There was a body before the tunnel dove down. I thought I'd felt something like an echo when I crossed over to the SUV. I wish I had a stick or 2 of dynamite or any kind of explosive to seal off the tunnel. I would have to settle with the next best option, though it was not my preferred method. I grabbed the spare tires from the SUV's trunks, deflated them with the scalpel, and placed them in the mouth of the cave. I gave one a good douse of gasoline and lit it. After a few minutes, the tire was burning pretty well, so I kicked it down the tunnel. It stopped on the man's body in front of the drop-off. Good enough. I kept my shotgun trained down the tunnel. About 5 minutes in, I saw movement at the bottom, so I squeezed off a couple of rounds. I waited until the first tire was starting to burn down, then lit the second one and rolled it after the first. 10 more minutes passed without any sign of life. I climbed up the cliff and walked over to the top of the cave. There were definitely a couple dead, but I was having a hard time feeling exactly how many. I felt sick. Smoke inhalation was not a pleasant way to go, but I didn't have a better option. I piled a bunch of brush at the entrance, plugging up the cave, and watched for an hour, feeling sick at what I'd just done as black smoke seeped from the mouth of the cave. Dang, Anthony.
So,
The showbiz.
No, definitely gives me, as a compliment, Geralt vibes, and I appreciate it.
Modern Witcher vibes?
Well, I mean, that's the story already did that for me.
That's fair.
That's why I'm so interested in it. But I recall at the start of the book, Anthony's like, "Yeah, I don't kill people," and proceeds to just go ham.
Proceeds to kill people. The 2 henchmen? Well, actually, he didn't kill the 2 henchmen. They died themselves.
killed? Yeah, he didn't kill the 2 henchmen. These are the only
I
people
think
he's
these are
killed.
the... Well,
No.
he did... Wait, no, he did. He did kill some of the
He
henchmen.
killed like a
He
driver
killed a couple-
or something.
He killed a couple
Oh.
henchmen.
He did kill the driver. You're right. He also
Yep.
shot the driver.
He's really good at killing modes of
Killed-
transportation.
4 people. It's
At least recorded.
oh, Brandon, it just gets better.
It gets better. He gets over it pretty quick, it seems.
See,
Or he
that's the same
doesn't.
thing. Geralt does that too. He's like, "Man, I don't kill humans. I only kill monsters."
Turns out the monsters were the humans we met along the way.
And no, that's like actually something that's conveyed in like one of the Witcher trailers. Is Geralt kills the people that gave him the job of killing like a fiend or something. And before like he kills the last guy, the guy's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Killing monsters," because they were like about to hang a woman who, as far as Geralt was concerned, was innocent of any crime.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a witch.
She's a witch. She turned me into a newt.
Well, they were reading off her crimes, and like they were actually pretty bad crimes, but Geralt didn't care or didn't hear. Probably didn't care, because they were really mean to this woman. And so yeah, he's like, "Yep, I'm just gonna kill you guys."
Haha, your subscription to Life has been canceled.
prematurely.
Yes. All right. Let's get into this next chapter. That was a
Yes,
good one. That was
That was
fun.
very, very. I'll say it was all very fast.
So I've learned more about caves, and I don't actually think that burning a tire in the mouth would actually kill people now. So
Well, smoke.
I don't think that's how airflow works.
Yeah,
Um,
smoke like hot air
I mean, there
rises.
could be a downdraft. I mean, there's a possibility, but yeah, it probably wouldn't actually fill up the whole cave. It would probably just,
I could
leak out
see.
the top.
So I think I'm not 100%.
Unless he did plug it. Plugging it could
Yeah.
could force the smoke down, but
I don't think it's necessarily an issue of the smoke. Like depending on, I don't know, depending on the cave, like by putting burning objects in the cave, you are burning oxygen, right?
oh, that's true too. Yeah, yeah.
So I
Yes,
don't
it could
I don't know if
burn-
it's smoking them out, but
it
you're definitely cutting
could
off.
burn all the oxygen in the. Yeah, that's possible. Now I'd have to go back and like, how much oxygen does two burning tires?
ChatGPT, this is
whatever,
for school, I promise.
Exactly, and of course it'll give you the wrong answer.
If
'cause it
Anthony
doesn't know
has
what it's
2
talking about.
tires and 4 men have 1 cave, what is the density of the sun? Okay.
Exactly. But then I'd have to know the square footage of the cave.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to know just the
Right.
volume
Yeah, whatever.
and then
Yeah.
the density of air versus
I'm an author. I'm not a
burning rate.
mathematician.
Yeah. The scientist people gonna read this part and be like, they didn't die. Nuh-uh. Except for the guy
I
that
don't
got
think they
shot,
did.
he did die.
In retrospect, from the gas inhalation, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe there's actually an expert on burning tires in caves in the comments. who can
Well,
tell us.
burning towers is
There's
something we know
there's
a lot
actually
about.
a
Is
rocky
That too soon?
Thanks, Brandon.
I'm
That's
sorry.
My personal headcanon is there's actually a Rocky Mountain horror that lived in the cave and just killed them.
just ate them.
Just ate them. Yeah. They're like,
Just a
oh,
big earthworm.
Anthony's not in here. Brah!
Nom nom nom
Nom,
nom
nom,
nom.
Nom, 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 nom,
Anthony, I killed
Ooh.
them.
These are tire favored. Delicious.
I love the tire smokiness of it.
I like-
it
These are
goes
my
very
favorite.
well.
I always have the peel. Okay. Moving on.
Good
Oh.
year.
Good year. Good year. That's funny.
Hmm.
That's I get it.
This
Get-
tastes like a 55 R17
Mm,
Goodyear.
Good year. Michelin? Hints of Michelin.
Dare I say, roadkill? Yeah, a wonderful accent.
Delicious. We're on chapter 16. I almost
Yeah.
got to finish dinner. How ironic. Once the smoke was barely seeping out, I pulled away the brush and ventured into the cave. I could feel 3 distinct echoes of recently departed souls as I neared the back. I didn't want to see their bodies, so I left them. I shoved my dirt bike into the back of one of the SUVs before getting Edgewood. Is that... Yeah, that's doable. Just imagining him trying to put it in the back
it
of a...
depends the size of a dirt
And if
bike.
you fold down the seats and put it in the back of the I'm just imagining putting him in the passenger side door, just trying to shove it in there.
Well, you probably could through the back 2 doors.
Well,
Again, if
like
it's
you
a
said,
medium
depends
or
on how
small
big
dirt bike.
the
If
dirt bike
it's
is.
not quite a full dirt bike.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's whatever size it is. It's a mini bike. No,
It's like
it's a pocket bike.
it's a pocket.
Uh,
Yeah. Okay. I shoved the dirt bike into the back of one of the SUVs before getting Edgewood. His face was slowly reforming. He was definitely a high fae. I dragged him into the SUV and cuffed his hand and knees. I had mostly removed his feet and at his shins with buckshot to the base of the seat. The chipper was waiting for me when I reached my storage unit. I pulled my dirt bike out of the car, parking it back in its place. The collector was looking far more whole, like he had been shot by a .223, not a 12 gauge. I didn't have much time. I grabbed a few rolls of duct and electrical tape. I wrapped him up head to what he had left of his toes. I hitched the wood chipper to the SUV and headed back home. 100 feet from my house, I put the SUV in park and got out. A light was on. I checked my shotgun, making certain it was ready. The front door was unlocked. I carefully opened it, then pushed into my house. My sister looked up from where she was making something at the stove. My brother-in-law rushed for a drawer across from where he was sitting on the floor with the baby. I lowered my gun, and we all looked at each other. My brother-in-law slowly began putting my 1911 back in the drawer. One of my mini 1911s.
I was just thinking that.
It's actually
You don't
the
have a
same
drawer
one.
gun in every
Because
drawer?
Don't you guys remember?
Yeah,
They
you're right.
unloaded the 1911 and
And put it in the
his
drawer. You're right.
Yeah.
That's a good detail. I also like to think that he just has a gun in like each drawer.
Yeah.
Accessible. Kitchen gun.
Dishwasher gun.
Yeah. It's a clean gun.
Oven gun?
Oven gun.
That would have to be like a 1911 because polymer isn't gonna play nice with the stove.
It's a
Or maybe like a
you
cobalt
have-
or something.
No, you just have a heat resistant container in the oven.
Yes.
You just have an insulated container in the oven for the gun.
That makes more sense because you don't want the bullets to pop off
No, that'd be bad.
accidentally.
I let out a long breath and was surprised to hear the baying of a hound. Rudy flopped down the stairs, licked the baby absently as he flopped over to me, very excited that I was home. Heavens, Aaron, you almost scared me to death, my sister said. You might not want to put that away yet, I said to my brother-in-law. What's going on, Aaron? I forgot. What's this guy's voice? What's going on, Aaron? He asked seriously, pulling the 1911 back out. Work followed me home. I believe I have things taken care of, but there's still a chance things could go downhill, I replied. I need to clear the house, then we can talk. They looked at me in shock. I needed to make sure the cabin was safe before I told them whatever I was going to tell them. I pushed past them and went upstairs to check the guest room. It had my sister's family stuff, but it was clear. I unlocked my door and pushed into my room. It was sacked, clothes strewn throughout the room, dresser tipped over, bed flipped, safe cut open, and my guns discarded on the floor.
Ah!
My guns? Those
Those
monsters!
They must perish.
The chipper's ready for all of them. Rudy stuck by my side as I finished the cabin and went out to the shop. My extra silver tip rounds I'd made were missing, but nothing else was gone. More importantly, no one was here. I walked back to the kitchen, letting my shotgun hang from the strap across my chest. You had a month, Bill said, my 1911 still grasped in his hand. My sister was holding the baby, eyes wide. Should I call the police? She asked. No, it's fine now. I dealt with it. I just need a phone to call the FBI and we should be good to go. I walked to a drawer where the men had dumped all my stuff and grabbed my phone. It was dead, so I plugged it into charge. Wait here till I get back. I turned to go back outside. Are you sure we shouldn't call the police? My sister asked, cradling her baby protectively. They couldn't help. I'll just need to wrap this up. You're safe. If you take another step without telling me what's going on, I'm going to call them, my sister stated firmly. I pulled a scrap of paper off the counter and jotted down Chris's number, then slid it towards her. If you must call someone, call this number. He's with the FBI, but give me 15 minutes and I'll call him myself. I turned and went out. Rudy was right by my heels. Excuse me. He barked and growled as we reached the SUV. I opened the side door and he jumped in, tearing at Edgewood's shoulder. Good boy. Rudy sat over him, teeth sunk in, thrashing his head in anger. I hadn't imagined for a moment the pup was capable of such aggression. I shut the door and drove to my cemetery at the far end of my property, just letting Rudy at it. I got out, revved up the chipper, and aimed the chute down towards an old plastic tarp. I tried to pull Edgewood out of the SUV, but with Rudy pulling him on the opposite direction, it was impossible. It took me a couple minutes.
And fun.
And fun. It took me a couple minutes to pry him off and tie him to a tree. I shoved the collector into the chipper. Come back from that, I found myself muttering as Edgewood's body ran through the blades. I could feel the echo of his dark soul vibrating around me, trying to piece its body back together. It was not finished by any means. I was going to come back with containers of salt, silver, and raw iron shavings, mix that concoction up with what's left of Edgewood, separate it out into a couple different plastic tubs, and bury him. Honestly, being chopped up by the steel blades was probably enough. I just didn't want the slightest possibility of him coming back. Once had been enough. I found my sister finishing the dinner she had been cooking when I burst in. She looked at me irritated. Your contact says he's on his way. I let out a long sigh. I didn't want her to call Chris. Too late now. I'm gonna get cleaned up. I shuffled up the stairs and took a long, hot shower. I found a set of clothes from the piles Edgewood's men made and went back downstairs. Dinner was served, but neither Bree nor Bill were eating, just the baby. Bree was feeding him spoonfuls of mashed potatoes. Rudy lay under the baby's chair, head flopped on the floor, one droopy eye open, watching for scraps. Where'd you find the dog? I asked, settling into a seat across from Bill. He was sitting on your porch. Did he get locked out? It looks like he missed a few meals, Bill replied while my sister looked at me, still not touching her food. He demolished 2 bowls and probably would have had a third if we let him. I don't know exactly what happened to him. I paused. He must have gotten out. What happened? You wouldn't leave him out on his own, Bree asked. She was concerned, I could tell, and still not interested in the food on her plate. I cut into my roast. Work followed me home, I said matter-of-factly, then shoved the delicious food into my mouth. Here? My sister glanced around the room, wide-eyed. I thought that had been pretty obvious when I had swept the entire house. Yeah, I took care of it. I shoved more food in my mouth. What does that mean? My sister snapped. She shifted in her seat and glanced at her husband. He nodded to me. I could tell he could guess the vein of what took care of meant. Don't press him, dear, he said. He probably can't talk about it. Is that right, Aaron? I could. It wouldn't do him any good, but I needed to say something because they should stop swinging by my place. It just wasn't safe anymore, if it ever was. I killed him. Tied up loose ends, as it were. My sister blinked rapidly in disbelief. Perhaps I should have approached it differently. I just took another bite of mashed potatoes. The confirmation played across Bill's face. He had guessed something similar, but it was clearly still a bit off-putting, even for him. I don't even know what to say, my sister breathed. I waved my fork dismissively. It is fine. I made it out all right, with some help, and I took care of it. If you need us, you can come to our place, my sister said. She glanced around my home. Then the look on her face reminded me of someone lost in a dark forest. That would be nice. Very nice. I should make certain things are settled here. What I meant was, it's better if I stick around and get rid of anyone who might come poking around looking for Edgewood, or me for that matter, but I couldn't say that without making her current reaction worse. How about we all pack up and take the helicopter to the hotel, Bill suggested, standing up and grabbing the baby. I bit into my roast. Gosh, it was delicious. My sister and brother-in-law stared at me blankly. That sounds wise, I muttered. The rest of my food would have to wait. I should have told him after I finished. Anthony's got his priorities straight. After shoving my sister's food in a large Tupperware, I went back to my shop and grabbed what I needed to finish off the collector's remains. I called Chris on my way to the cemetery. He was on his way with a team and would be here in 3 hours. I told him I'd be back in the next day or two. By the time I was back from burying Mr. Edgewood, Bill and Bree had packed and had Rudy on a leash. I took my 1911 from Bill and threw on a clean jacket. Bill flew us to a local airport. We got an Uber to a hotel, and I paid for the rooms. It was the least I could do. I paid for 2 days for mine. It felt like I was going to sleep 24 hours, so I was surprised when I woke up the next morning. I got my brother-in-law and sister on their way, though my sister said she was not done talking, and I would be hearing from her. I waited with Rudy at the entrance of the hotel for Chris. He pulled up in his nice Ford, towing his old silver bullet camper. I let Rudy in the back and climbed into the passenger seat. I forgot how Chris sounds. I got an earful from your sister. She was very worried. Chris gave me a long look. She didn't seem to know what was going on. Someone from the exotic trafficking found my house. I glanced back, taking note of the cars around us. What happened? Chris asked as he pulled onto the main highway. I ran him through a chipper, then burnt the remains with salt, silver, and raw iron. Heavens, man, was that necessary? Chris looked over at me, face grim, one eyebrow raised. I shot him in the head with a .45 the first time, and he showed up to my house a week or so later. I would have run him through again if I thought that would help. I need a plane to go to his compound. I don't know what we're going to find, but I'm guessing there are things that'll need put down. Chris nodded. What did he want? Do you even know? Oh, I know. I let out an exasperated sigh. He wanted to catch Sinew, the Rocky Mountain Horror, alive. And that's the end of chapter 16.
Oh my.
There we go.
There we go.
Oh, the problems of being a monster hunter.
Yeah, you can't even have dinner.
Can't even have dinner. Gotta settle for leftovers. Well, that was chapter 16. Episode 8 of My Little Cemetery. If you have not started that beginning, I would recommend you start at the beginning because context.
You should just put all of these live. You should just turn them on so
Yeah.
people can watch them.
I should just turn them.
I
Okay,
think.
they're just going to be live, unedited,
Yeah,
Raw.
just raw.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good idea because editing's a pain.
Yeah, just and if we want to edit them later, we can do that.
We'll
but
pay someone money to do that.
We'll just suffer through it. Yeah.
Yep,
Or maybe I will get around to it because my neck is
Once your
neck
bobblehead's
is a better,
unbobbled.
but hopefully, yeah. I should edit more.
Yep.
Ugh. Gosh, life.
Life indeed.
But yeah, that was chapter
Chapter 16.
16, and we're more than halfway done, so this is pretty exciting.
That's actually pretty exciting.
It is pretty exciting.
Cool.
Well, thank you all for coming. Yeah, no.
Are we done yet?
That's about it. It's fun hanging out. Are we done yet? I hope our 2 viewers,
Woo!
if we have any, I don't even know.
We have
I haven't even looked.
we have 1 viewer at least. Hello.
Hello, viewer.
Hi.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Anyway, we're going to close things down now. Y'all have a
Yeah.
great night, and we will be back.
We'll see you when we see you.
We'll see. We'll be back. We'll be back next Thursday or the one after that. We'll see.
Yep.